Paul, what's bugging you today?
What's bugging me today is how much bookkeeping has changed from when I first started. I started 30 years ago.
Mm.
It was really traditional bookkeeping with computers to help you doing that traditional bookkeeping. Now it's computerized bookkeeping. And I've seen, and I'm just realizing now how much the bookkeeping industry has changed
Mhm.
in the last 30 years. That's what's bugging me today.
So why did this come up today? What was the specific thing that happened?
Nothing really specific. I think it's been in the back of my mind for a while, and I've talked about it on in some episodes in the podcast, but just once in a while, I wake up and I just say, "Wow, the world has changed." Well, this is just one of them that, bookkeeping has changed,
Mhm.
and it's not the same profession that I got into back in
Mhm.
1994. It just feels very, very different.
Hmm. Eh, has it changed for the better or for the worse? Like it let me rephrase that. Has it made your life easier or harder?
In some ways, it's made my life easier
Mhm.
in terms of downloading transactions into QuickBooks Online.
Mhm.
If you do it right, and if all the electronics and all the downloading and all of that stuff works the way it should, it actually makes life a little easier. But at the same time, if something like that doesn't work, it makes life a lot harder because then you have to find out what's missing. And
Mhm.
that eats up a lot of time. I rather just type it in sometimes manually
Mhm.
rather than trying to dissect a download that's supposed to work and it's not. So
Okay.
the best way to answer that is both. It sometimes helps, it
Hmm.
sometimes hinders.
Do you think if Paul from 1994 were to think about starting bookkeeping now, he would with the tools that are available? Would it be as appealing?
Well, yeah, because if I was just starting out now, like a
Mhm.
lot of young bookkeepers are, they don't know what it was like in 1994.
Mhm.
They have nothing to compare it to. Most people just starting out now, even though QuickBooks Desktop is available, they don't even know what that is. They've hardly even heard of it. So
Yeah.
the only thing that they know is cloud-based
Mhm.
online computerized bookkeeping. They have nothing to compare it to. So, yeah, I would probably do the same thing and be very happy with it.
Mhm. Hmm. So it's just that it's changed so much since you started.
Yeah, I mean, I got in at the very end of real traditional accounting
Mhm.
because the year that QuickBooks became software, um, that's really when I started. Maybe a year before when there was Peachtree, and Peachtree was out for a number of years, but it never QuickBooks is really what changed the industry
Mhm.
from traditional accounting using a computer
Mhm.
to computerized accounting.
Okay. So for folks like me who have only started to do their small business bookkeeping online fairly recently, when you say traditional accounting on a computer, what does that look like? Like, what did you use instead of QuickBooks or similar programs?
Well, back when I really first started, one of my first training assignments was
Mhm.
was an older person getting ready to retire,
Mhm.
and she took me over to her apartment, and she took me to her dining room table where it had like three or four leaves on it, so it was
Yeah.
like really big,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it was a handwritten general ledger with debits and credits.
Wow.
And this is how bookkeeping was done for
Right.
years and years. No computers,
Right.
no, there were adding machines, sure, but there were no computers to enter data
Mhm.
into. It was handwritten with a pen, and if there were any mistakes, they had to be added as adjustments, and it would take up a
Okay.
lot of room. There was no eraser on pens in accounting. Now with computerized accounting,
Oh,
there's a delete button.
right. With a
So it
pen.
it changes the rules.
Of so much. And that's how you started. You started with those paper ledgers.
Well, I didn't do that. When I
Mhm.
started, computers were already and Peachtree and QuickBooks,
Mhm.
was already there, so that's the first thing that I learned, but I was
Mhm.
exposed to the general ledgers on paper.
Okay. So again, walk me through when you first started and you were using the computer. Like, what's the biggest difference between how you were doing it then and how you're doing it now? Like, what's the difference in in what
Well,
you're
the
looking at?
the main difference is everything was manually input with
Mhm.
the desktop edition.
Mhm.
You also had kind of more straightforward transactions as opposed to what you have now. I mean,
Mhm.
when back in the, in the 90s and early 2000s, there were very, very few people who signed leases for companies, and they made a deal with the landlord saying,
Mhm.
"I'll do leasehold improvements in lieu of paying you rent."
Mhm.
It was done, but it wasn't done very often. Now it's almost commonplace.
Mhm.
It's done a lot. And just in that, how do you account for that? And that was
Mm.
just not a question back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And it just kind of happened over time. That's one example.